In the previous part, we witnessed a fiery solo battle between Toriko and Joie, a gourmet hunter with overwhelming power. Toriko had to unleash his ultimate state, infinite appetite, to defeat Joie. Peace was finally restored to the human world, but the battle left it facing a new crisis, a severe shortage of ingredients, leading to immense difficulties in culinary life. Now fully recovered, Toriko decides to venture into the gourmet world in search of ingredients to bring back for humanity. Accompanying him is Komatsu, and together, the two will embark on a brand new adventure in the gourmet world. Time has passed about a year since Toriko entered the gourmet world. Today, on a beautiful day, a soft candy suddenly fell from the sky and woke Toriko up. Fish suddenly jumped out of the ground in the field. Toriko lay on a big leaf and had a good sleep. When he woke up, Toriko said that he could function continuously for 2 weeks without sleep. Then it started raining soft candy. Today, the weather is sunny and there are many candy eggs. Toriko looks very satisfied while eating. Sometimes there are also chocolates and cotton candy. In some areas, there is even mountain rain where a mountain suddenly falls and a giant bird flies to eat the mountain. Taking advantage of their departure, Toriko climbs up a tree and takes the eggs. One egg can make a perfect fried egg dish. The area where Toriko is currently in is called Land Sea, and it seems that there will be big waves soon. When Toriko has collected enough ingredients, he will prepare to return. When talking about returning, Toriko is talking about returning to the human world. But before returning, he will bring the collected ingredients to his base. It is a super giant tree which is full of ingredients that Toriko has collected. These ingredients will be brought back to the human world. When hearing the news that he can finally return to the human world, Komatsu, who was cooking, was so happy that he cried. A year before Toriko brought Komatsu here, he started collecting various ingredients. Currently, Toriko is a little worried about the situation in the human world, while Komatsu is 10% worried that he might die here. After all, he has been alone in the base for a long time, but with so many ingredients, how can Toriko bring them back? He just needs to chop down the tree with one swing and then fix his handsome hairstyle for himself and Komatsu. Toriko plans to bring the ingredients back directly. Returning to the human world, at this time, a truck is transporting something. Suddenly a pill falls from this cargo truck. In a high-class Chinese restaurant, people can only eat seasoning with the taste of ingredients. A year ago, after a fierce battle with the four beasts and the dark chefs, most of the ingredients houses and the land became dry. Therefore, the human world is facing a food crisis and Igo's food reserves are also running out. In this deadlock, the food produced by Igo has to sacrifice the original taste of the ingredients and only retain the nutritional value. Because eating food tablets all day makes people go crazy. In a vegetable shop called Tata, normal ingredients like fresh honeyed turnips are considered high-class ingredients. It is not only placed in a tempered glass cabinet but also has 2 guards standing at the door. The price has also increased 100 times compared to before. Today Suguru comes to the shop to buy medicine. His mother is sick and bedridden and Suguru has a dream of saving enough money to buy fresh and delicious ingredients for his mother to eat. Because the shop is about to close, the owner gives Suguru a honeyed turnip and reminds him to keep it safe. As a result, on the way back Suguru is stopped by 2 guards. Don't blame me, blame this era. The job of these food guards comes with a restriction ring, and if they violate the contract their fingers will explode. Can this be compared to fresh ingredients? The 2 guards took Suguru's turnip. They are the ones hired to collect ingredients. Shortly after they left, a super large turnip fell from the sky. Suguru sees a super large rice bowl like a mountain and Toriko brings a pile of ingredients back. He smells the hunger and sadness everywhere. Toriko gently pushes the ingredients to everyone. These ingredients can soothe the wounds and hunger of humans. They are ingredients that can cleanse the soul and heal all wounds. Suguru also meets Komatsu carrying a basket of vegetables. He can directly burn the pan on his hand and the ingredients from the basket fly out. Komatsu quickly chops and stir-fries at an extremely fast speed. A delicious dish is completed. Everyone is very happy about the return of Toriko and Komatsu. Toriko says that without enough food and clothing, humans will lose their sanity. The 2 unlucky guards who were here earlier had their bones broken by the ingredients. On the other side, at Igo's headquarters, Chairman Mansam finally waited for Toriko to return. Toriko was quickly called and Komatsu was very happy to see the other 3 heavenly kings. Everyone had been waiting for a long time. Zebra's volatile temperament remained unchanged and Sani even asked Komatsu if he had undergone plastic surgery. In reality, Komatsu's appearance had changed somewhat. Komatsu, who had gone through many experiences, became stronger in appearance. Right after that, Rin, the beautiful girl, also arrived. After the battle, when Toriko was feeling down, Rin called on everyone to encourage Toriko. Now that she saw Toriko return safely, Rin was naturally very happy. She even proposed to Toriko to marry her. Okay, let's do it. But everyone thought something was fishy here. To make sure that this wasn't a joke from Toriko, Rin asked again. Toriko's answer remained the same. Everyone was surprised and even cursed Toriko. Aren't you and Komatsu a couple? Did you two break up? After that, the three heavenly kings arrived at the first biotope. They had been searching for a long time but couldn't find Old Man's main dish. Neither Coco nor the hairstylist Sunny could find its electromagnetic waves, not even Zebra's ultrasonic waves. The ingredients that Toriko brought back were just a drop in the ocean. The real solution was to collect Old Man's complete menu and find ingredients that could be used endlessly. Although the first biotope was completely destroyed by Zebra, Toriko still found some interesting things. He could smell the presence of many remaining creatures. Old Man had indeed passed through here a long time ago. Following the scent, Toriko smelled the direction of Old Man. In fact, in the image you can also see a creature standing in front of Old Man, probably a Nitro. At this moment, Toriko felt his maturity on the path of gourmet hunting. Komatsu revealed that Toriko had relied on his sense of smell to find him all this time. Compared to the normal human world, every place in the gourmet world was dangerous. However, there were also safer places within it. Toriko named those places the break rooms of the gourmet world. It was similar to the invisibility technique of the invisible restaurant. It was a unique ecological environment. For ferocious beasts it was an unseen dark corner, however Toriko could only maintain it for a short time. At this moment, Toriko discovered a similar environment in the first biotope. He speculated that it was an Old Man's trick. Despite the entire island showing signs of destruction, why leave such an empty area? Inside it couldn't be seen, touched, or heard, but it could be smelled. Indeed, it was a safe area. Beyond the thick air wall there was another world inside. Looking from the inside out, everything was clear. When people first entered they discovered the final treasure chest, Old Man's complete menu. Before leaving, Toriko noticed another creature in the house, which was the Nitro he had seen standing in front of the Old Man. It seemed to be a dried up Nitro. After ignoring it, everyone arrived at Area 1 biotope. Seeing that Komatsu was safe, everyone was relieved. Kairu immediately asked about the other kidnapped chefs, but when Toriko found the Bishokukai base, it had been destroyed and only Komatsu was there. The other chefs had been taken elsewhere, but Komatsu believed they were still alive. Moving back to the main story, the chefs had come because they heard the call of the ingredients. Although Livebearer didn't hear the call of the ingredients, he had tasted them through memories. It was the billion bird, also known as the phantasmal bird, from ancient times existing in the gourmet world. Its entire body, including its feathers, could be used. Even more surprising was its reproductive ability. It could lay nearly infinite eggs in any environment with ease. Its lifespan stretched thousands or even billions of years. In the past it was also known as the king of poultry. With it the problems of the human world could be solved. Therefore the next crucial step was to hatch the eggs. Toriko had an idea for this. The Old Man's entire menu was designed to hatch the eggs. First, sow the seeds of the million tree for the appetizer. The eggs of the billion bird would only hatch when nested on the million tree. Then use broth made from various types of shrimp, jellyfish and other seafood as fertilizer, and the million tree would grow rapidly. Next, sow the princess straw seed for the salad on the tree, accompanied by the Lord Hail as a drink. Now they just needed to patiently wait for the eggs to hatch. The chefs went back to preparing while waiting. During this process, Komatsu asked why the billion bird, if it was so powerful, wasn't noticed. Toriko explained that they were difficult to eat. It was said that the billion bird couldn't fly and had many enemies. To counteract these enemies they evolved an endless reproductive habit when attacked, but their taste was terrible, so the number of predators hunting the billion bird decreased. As the number of billion birds increased they stopped reproducing endlessly. It was said they became extinct, which left no other choice in the gourmet era. At this moment Komatsu remembered Setsuno's words, a chef does not choose the ingredients choose the chef and the customers. He wondered if the billion bird had chosen them, and he would stay until the day the billion bird was born. Surprisingly, the billion bird was born the next day. Sunny thought the newborn billion bird was ugly, but Komatsu found it quite cute. Next, Toriko would feed the bird the fish dish on the complete menu Mitarashi kelp, so that after eating, the chick would grow quickly. Then, he would feed the meat dish on the full course nihil bug with the dessert dry melaron. After that the nihil bug would become an adult and the billion bird would eat it, and the feathers on the billion bird's head would take the shape of infinitely laying eggs. With this preparation everything was ready. Finally they just needed to startle it and the billion bird would lay infinite eggs, and the eggs it just laid would hatch immediately. This was the Old Man's full course, the infinite ingredient, the billion bird. With the billion bird as an infinite ingredient, the human world was finally saved, and now it was up to the chefs to create delicious dishes from it. The chefs of the human world were determined to turn the billion bird into a delicacy. Although many considered the billion bird unpalatable, its appearance suggested otherwise. Its dried and ground beak could substitute rice, its claws used as seasoning, and its meat perfect for stewing, simple yet delicious. This proved that the lack of delicious dishes wasn't due to the absence of quality ingredients, but a lack of culinary creativity. Chefs diligently researched various billion bird recipes, from curries to hot pots, each striving to create delicious and filling meals for everyone. In short, the billion bird might not be inherently delicious, but the chefs, with their skills, transformed this disregarded ingredient into culinary delights. Wabutora busied himself with frying chicken, the sizzling sound of oil a comforting melody to his ears. It had been a while since he last heard such a delightful sound. Finally, humanity had escaped the brink of apocalypse and could savor the true taste of ingredients. People ate with tears streaming down their faces, tears of gratitude for their saviors, for their own survival, and for the opportunity to enjoy such delectable meals. Though not the most exquisite dishes, they were not mere medicine, but the aroma of fresh ingredients, the richness of the sauce, and the satisfying feeling of each bite. Everyone was moved. Rediscovering the joy of eating. Toriko, witnessing the sight of people eating and crying, exclaimed, "Chefs are truly amazing. The taste of the billion bird I experienced in the gourmet casino's brain data pales in comparison to what everyone has created. It's remarkable to turn the billion bird into something so delicious." Komatsu disagreed. From the start he never considered the billion bird difficult to eat. On the contrary, he believed it to be an excellent ingredient, making its extinction even more unbelievable. Stroking the billion bird's head, he murmured, "Those monsters had no idea how delicious you are. To live for thousands of years unnoticed, going extinct in silence, I wonder how that feels." He recalled Ichiria's words, "Without someone to prepare it, an ingredient holds no value. Just like my full-course menu." Hugging the billion bird tightly, Komatsu said gently, "Everyone thinks you're delicious now. Thank you for being reborn into this world." Even before its rebirth, the billion bird had sensed Komatsu's care. Now his heartwarming words brought tears to its eyes. At that moment the billion bird understood Komatsu's feelings. It suddenly raised its wings, creating a rustling sound. Komatsu and Toriko watched in astonishment as its wings grew longer, vibrant feathers overlapping one another. Soon a pair of glistening wings emerged. Though its face and wings seemed disproportionate, it didn't diminish its splendor. The billion bird flapped its wings and soared into the sky. "How can the billion bird fly? I thought it couldn't," exclaimed a surprised Toriko. But with Komatsu's influence it seemed plausible. "Old man, do you see this? Your full-course menu has taken flight." Tears welled up in Komatsu's eyes as he watched the billion bird soar through the sky. It was the first time he had witnessed such beautiful plumage. Could it be that being recognized by the world allowed it to soar through the heavens? The billion bird circled overhead seemingly joyful. Suddenly its rear end twitched with a thump, several shiny eggs dropped from its body. Komatsu swiftly caught one. Both he and Toriko sensed that this was no ordinary egg, it was entirely different from the previous ones. Komatsu firmly believed that the billion bird was a special ingredient, and these eggs were undoubtedly its essence. He immediately gathered Coco, Sunny and the others, sharing the news of the billion bird's flight. Sunny, almost screeching in astonishment, exclaimed, "What? That filthy bird is flying now? And it's beautiful? Are you serious?" Komatsu swore it was true, adding emphatically, "It has a handsome face too." Coco was more interested in the origin of these eggs. These eggs weren't laid due to an attack but as a result of praisem. This detail alone proves that this is a special ingredient. While such a phenomenon seemed unusual, ultimately as long as an ingredient was edible and delicious it didn't matter. Eagerly Toriko cracked open an egg, pouring the yolk into a cup. The yolk was smooth, translucent like jelly with no sign of its usual opaque form. Everyone was amazed by its pudding-like elasticity. Observant as ever, Coco pointed out, "Look closely, the yolk is spreading, shimmering like gold dust under the sunlight." Toriko gulped, immediately taking a sip. The yolk, as smooth as pudding, glided down his throat with a gentle suction. Overwhelmed by its deliciousness he could only manage a delayed, "delicious." Komatsu, seeing Toriko's exaggerated reaction, panicked slightly. Is this another hair-growing ingredient? Can it be mass-produced to save the balding population? Oblivious, Toriko continued to savor the taste. Only after fully experiencing the exquisite flavor of the billion bird egg did he answer Komatsu's question. "My hair grew longer because it's so incredibly delicious. The rich flavor of the 1,000-year-old billion bird spreads throughout the body, opening up the pores and promoting hair growth." Sunny, gazing at Toriko's long, flowing hair, felt a mix of envy and anticipation. "It has such amazing hair-nourishing effects?" He then eagerly took a gulp himself. Sunny, already known for his incredibly long hair, found even his eyelashes growing to a startling length after consuming the bird egg, making it difficult for others to look him in the eye. Coco wasn't spared either. His transformation gave him the air of a dashing male lead straight out of a romantic drama. Zebra's eyebrows and hair also grew at an alarming rate, leading him to exclaim that the egg was more like a magical elixir than food. Meanwhile, Komatsu, completely absorbed by everyone else's dramatic changes, remained oblivious to his own incredible transformation. Toriko closed his eyes, taking a moment to process the sensations washing over him. "It's as if my body, down to a genetic level, is being completely revitalized, even the smallest of wounds healing at an accelerated rate," he murmured in awe. He cracked another egg, raising it in a toast to the others. "I've decided," he announced, a newfound confidence in his voice, "these billion bird eggs, they're going on my life menu, under the beverage category." The others responded with smiles and nods of agreement, their faces glowing with delight. Suddenly, Rin came rushing towards them, her face alight with excitement only to stop short, completely speechless at the sight before her. "What in the world?" she stammered, completely bewildered. "Why do you all look like magical girls?" The Earth's magnetic field was in complete disarray, a massive whirlpool forming in the sky. The cause of this global anomaly, the three animal partners of the four heavenly kings, Terry, Kiss and Quinn, were engaged in a fierce battle. Each clash of their immense power shook the very foundations of the land, the air crackling with energy as their attacks collided. Finally the three managed to separate, panting heavily ready to resume their brawl when Terry noticed movement in the distance. It was Toriko, he was back. The fight instantly forgotten, they rushed towards their returning friend. Toriko beamed, running his hand over Terry's soft, luxurious fur. "I'm so sorry for worrying you, buddy," he said, his voice full of warmth. Terry had grown considerably in Toriko's absence, his massive jaws now a tight fit in Toriko's embrace. Looking at his other two companions, Toriko realized that all three were now ready to face the challenges that awaited them in the gourmet world. Suddenly Tom came bounding towards them, a bottle of sake clutched in his hand, yelling Toriko's name. He'd come to celebrate Toriko's return. They exchanged hearty cheers, draining their cups in one gulp. Toriko, sensing his friend's thoughts, smiled warmly. Their time was short. Before leaving, there was one last thing Toriko needed to do: confront the mysterious figure residing in the treehouse. After all, their next journey would be a long and perilous one, and who knew when they'd have the chance to return here again. At the headquarters in Egypt, Mansam received exhilarating news: they've commenced operations in the city. With the land on its way to recovery, other systems would gradually regenerate, breathing life back into the world. In time, the human world would be restored to a vibrant and beautiful home. He issued an order for the reconstruction of Area NEO, emphasizing the importance of railway lines. Just then Johannes arrived with a report: the device for measuring capture levels of gourmet world ingredients is essentially complete. Having served diligently for so long, Johannes had finally been promoted to director of NEO's development bureau. Mansam was immensely satisfied with their progress. As expected, the full revival of the gourmet age relied on obtaining ingredients from the gourmet world and of course the strength of the four heavenly kings. It was remarkable that Toriko had chosen to include this unique ingredient in his full course menu. Taking Toriko in all those years ago was undoubtedly the right decision, he murmured. He vividly remembered the day he and Ichiryu, the former president of the IGO, were on a hunting expedition in the wilderness. They came across a young, emaciated Toriko, weak from hunger and barely able to crawl across the dry earth. Ichiryu was the first to recognize the boy's unique nature. Toriko was a natural-born gourmet cell host. However, Ichiryu walked up to him without a word and handed him a piece of bread. Toriko took the bread and stuffed it into his shirt, then trembled and was about to leave. Ichiryu asked him where he wanted to go. Toriko thanked him and said he wanted to go to the village where everyone was starving. He wanted to bring this bread back to share with everyone. Ichiryu was touched by the boy's heart, although he was so hungry that his stomach growled and he staggered. He always thought of others. As soon as Toriko finished speaking, he fainted. Ichiryu hurriedly caught him and only then discovered that the boy's fingernails were almost gone. This was a sign that the boy had been gnawing on himself. He was so hungry that he had to bite his nails to relieve the hunger, yet he still endured it, thinking of the villagers first. Such purity, kindness and loveliness were rare in this world. Therefore he made a bold decision: I want to adopt this child. My life's menu is meant for those who have a sharing heart like yours. Later, if one day the gourmet age collapses, this sharing heart will certainly become a powerful driving force, shouldering the age and humanity. Mansam still remembered Ichiryu's bright smile at that time. He had said, I want to see what kind of magnificent menu this young man will assemble in the future. Although he was no longer able to witness it, there was no doubt that his belief had been passed on. Mansam raised his glass high, toasting to the great chairman, and also to those who always carry a deep concern for all living beings. In the gourmet world's rock forest, Setsuno and Jiro came across a giant million tree. Upon seeing it, Jiro guessed, Midora must have cut it down to make a tombstone. It's well maintained, the stone flowers are even blooming. However, I heard the land here has been barren for a long time. Setsuno said. Could this be the work of the regeneration specialists? Jiro shook his head. It must be Midora's doing. The rock forest was the place where the three of them trained together, filled with memories. Back then, Midora was the weakest, but now, even Jiro himself might not be his match. Jiro took out a bottle of wine and slowly poured it onto the ground. He told Setsuno not to worry about that idiot anymore. Sooner or later, he would have to pay for the sins he inflicted upon the human world. Compared to him, the most important issue now is Schwa, Setsuno sighed. We have to be mentally prepared for a direct confrontation with him. Exploring gourmet world, we might very well lose our lives here. In short, we will wait for Toriko and Komatsu in the gourmet world. After all, they wouldn't be returning to the human world. Will the human world be alright? Jiro turned back to look at Setsuno and said, it will be fine. Those Toriko kids are more reliable than we think. At Setsuno's restaurant, Komatsu arrived looking for Setsuno, but Nono greeted him instead. Nono informed him that Setsuno had already left for the gourmet world, and it was uncertain when she would return. Komatsu said he would come back another time. Nono called him back asking if he wanted to stay for a meal. Though Komatsu himself had brought the billion-bird egg, she insisted on treating him. After bidding farewell to Nono, everyone gathered. Mansam roared, "Is everyone ready, all 5 of you?" The 4 heavenly kings and Komatsu responded in unison, "Ready." Receiving their confirmation, Mansam swiftly stripped off his clothes, grabbed a glass of wine, and settled into a bathtub. He changes so quickly. Why is he taking a bath again? Before departing, Toriko led everyone back to the treehouse. He had a hunch about the place. Previously, treasure chests hidden in different habitats were always guarded by beasts. Komatsu didn't understand. Is there something unfinished? Toriko walked straight into the air while the others following closely. Zebra grew impatient. This is troublesome. Whatever it is, let's finish it quickly. He unleashed a powerful sound blast, aiming to shatter the treehouse. However, despite his efforts, the structure remained unscathed. Such strong wood, it probably only exists in the gourmet world. Sunny, standing in front, remarked, "There's a front door, why not use it?" Everyone followed Coco inside. The house was spacious, everything crafted from leaves, even the refrigerator and bookshelves. Moreover, there were many adult books, causing Coco's small face to flush red. Komatsu discovered an entrance leading downwards. It led to a bedroom with a unique bed and bedding made of leaves. But the first thing that caught Coco's attention were the piles of adult books in the corner. Toriko intended to continue downwards to find the owner, but there was no other exit on this floor. The only option left was to use his nail gun for a simple and crude solution. Komatsu and Coco were blown away by the storm created by the nail gun, but the house didn't budge. The hot-tempered zebra told them to move aside, wanting to try his super flame. Still nothing. Toriko was sure his sense of smell wasn't mistaken. The target was currently on the first floor. Sunny's hair fluttered wildly. This must be another one of the old man's pranks. The entrance must be hidden somewhere in this small room. I'll find it. He noticed something amiss with the scenery beside him. Komatsu rushed over, and indeed there was a path inside the well. Following it, they arrived at a bathing room with an enormous hot spring. Instinctively, Toriko and Komatsu stripped naked, ready for a soak. A speechless Coco asked, "What are we doing here?" According to the electromagnetic waves he was picking up, the pool in the yard was also suspicious, seemingly connected to another location. "Let's dive down and see." With it, he jumped in. However, after swimming from one side of the pool to the other, all he found was the bottom. The pool was connected to a secret location. Zebra had already used echolocation to pinpoint the position. Meanwhile, Komatsu discovered that a window on the first floor could be opened. In other words, the entrance to the first floor had been right in front of them all along. The hot-headed zebra immediately erupted, kicking the window open with a bang, urging everyone to enter. However, upon stepping inside, they were met with the sight of Nitro lying on the floor, his head smashed by the window. At first, Toriko, Zebra, Sunny, Coco, and Komatsu all thought it was a GT Robo, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a living creature. Toriko asserted that it was Nitro and told everyone to bring water to water it. As soon as he finished his sentence, Nitro stood up and slapped him. The whole group was stunned. Before they could regain their composure, Nitro roared, demanding that the 5 of them greet him properly. He grumbled that they were late and had even hit him on the head with a window. Komatsu hurriedly tried to calm him down and introduce themselves. Nitro became even angrier upon hearing that. He couldn't believe they hadn't heard of him. Komatsu naively replied that they hadn't. Nitro was disappointed, kneeling and pounding the ground in frustration, reproaching them for not greeting him first. He then introduced himself as Chi-Chi, a partner of Ichiryu. The 5 were dumbfounded, then gasped in astonishment. However, Chi-Chi corrected himself, saying the partner part was just a joke. Chi-Chi began to talk about his relationship with Ichiryu. They met 500 years ago when he had been asleep for tens of thousands of years but was awakened by Ichiryu. Everyone was confused because the story was so short, but Chi-Chi couldn't remember the details, only that it was 500, number 490, or was it 480 years ago? Chi-Chi changed the subject and asked why the group didn't come to see him when they saw him outside earlier. Chi-Chi was furious because he had pretended to be a withered corpse to get their attention, but they just walked away. He said he then planted seeds in the ground, watered them, and they grew into leaf chairs. Toriko awkwardly explained that at that time, he was prioritizing completing the president's full-course menu, so he didn't go in. Besides, his intuition told him that Chi-Chi wasn't a bad person, but very troublesome. Suddenly he noticed Komatsu and asked if he had met a woman before coming here because he smelled like a woman. Chi-Chi excitedly grabbed Komatsu's collar and sniffed him like a pervert. Komatsu hurriedly explained that he had met Nono at Setsuno's restaurant before coming here. Seeing that, Chi-Chi changed his attitude and begged Komatsu to give him his shirt, promising to tell him everything. Although reluctant, Komatsu had to give him his shirt. Chi-Chi was overjoyed when he received the shirt and shouted that he felt 100 million years younger. Everyone was speechless at this bizarre act, not understanding why he liked clothes that smelled of women so much. After getting the shirt, Chi-Chi told everyone to sit down and listen to his story. He said that before they went to the gourmet world, he had something to give them. The group looked around curiously. Suddenly the ground shook, and the floor collapsed. They fell into the kitchen, where an apple was displayed on a plate. Although it looked normal, when they saw the apple, their bodies began to react. Although they didn't have time to think, the gourmet demons of the 4 heavenly kings and even Komatsu's appeared. Chi-Chi laughed, but then he changed his expression and punched the gourmet demons in the head. Only Toriko dodged in time. The other 3 were all hit. Chi-Chi happily remarked that these gourmet demons were so cute. Komatsu asked in bewilderment what was going on. Chi-Chi seriously replied that it was one of the dishes in Acacia's full-course menu. The 5 held their breath and waited, but Chi-Chi chuckled and said, sorry, I was just kidding." Toriko and the group immediately frowned. Toriko was about to rush over and give the old man a lesson in joking, but Chi-Chi stopped him and explained that although this apple was just an ordinary apple, it had been placed next to one of the ingredients in Acacia's full-course menu and had its scent. It was just an ordinary apple, yet no one could take their eyes off it. If just a whiff of the ingredient was enough to drive people crazy, how appealing would the actual dish be? Chi-Chi reminded them that the place they were about to go to was a world filled with such ingredients. Toriko wondered why he had been in the gourmet world for so long but had never felt anything like that. Chi-Chi exasperatedly explained that it was because he only hung around safe places. Toriko suddenly understood and became even more eager to taste those amazing ingredients. Just smelling it was already so intoxicating. If he ate it, he would surely go to heaven. Is this the level of ingredients in Acacia's full-course menu? Truly a whole other level. Chi-Chi picked up the apple and asked if everyone wanted to try a piece before they set off. Komatsu volunteered to cook something else. He remembered Chi-Chi calling himself a flavor sage, so was he a chef? If so, why not cook together? However, Chi-Chi refused and told everyone not to underestimate a flavor sage. His mission was only to deliver this apple, everything else was none of his business. Coco was interested in whether Chi-Chi could reveal any more information. But no matter what they asked, Chi-Chi only said that the answer lay in the gourmet world. "I'll help you find more clothes that smell like women." Chi-Chi blushed and asked with a suggestive tone, "Really? Are they warm?" Seeing that Komatsu had found Chi-Chi's weakness, everyone immediately came up with a plan. Toriko bluntly said, "Let me ask Rin if she has any pajamas to throw away, they're guaranteed to be warm." Coco also stammered, I have many female customers who come for fortune-telling, I'll ask if they have anything warm." The psychological warfare tactic worked perfectly. Chi-Chi was so moved that he cried, "You guys are such good people. Life is so wonderful." He then agreed to help everyone cook. The group had an unforgettable night. Chi-Chi leaned on a pile of dishes and said, "The night of the gourmet world is coming. The nocturnal beasts are much more powerful than the daytime ones. If you are ready, let's go." The 5 shouted in unison, "Let's go." As everyone was about to go outside, the ground suddenly shook. Chi-Chi smiled and said, "Just in time." What he was referring to was the mollusk fruit beast that usually resided underground, the watermelon octopus. This monster was at capture level 265, which was nothing to the current 4 heavenly kings. But at this point, fighting wasn't the focus. Chi-Chi explained, "This monster is a camping monster. Before the fruit ripens, it hibernates underground. Now it's awake, we'll use it in place of a tent." Everyone was dumbfounded by Chi-Chi's suggestion. Do they have to crawl inside this octopus to sleep? Wait a minute, this seems to be a watermelon? Chi-Chi shouted, "Don't underestimate this watermelon octopus. With the combined strength of you 4, why couldn't you find my log cabin? Do you think that was a coincidence?" This octopus is also known as the safe monster. Even in the harsh gourmet world, it can turn itself into a safe haven, very difficult for enemies to detect. Even if it's discovered, it's rarely attacked. Although sooner or later, higher level beasts will find it, but for this area at the entrance to the gourmet world, it's more than enough to be your sleeping quarters. Chi-Chi's explanations surprised everyone even more. It turned out that this was the transportation that Ichirio had prepared for them. That master truly cared deeply for his students. Chi-Chi continued, "Anyway, after meeting you guys, I'm somewhat relieved. It's precisely because of you guys that Ichirio can rest assured and entrust everything to you. The torch has been passed, and the ones who will carry it to the finish line are you. Go, everyone is probably waiting for you at the harbor." Komatsu blushed and stepped forward to ask about Chi-Chi's next plan. Chi-Chi folded his arms and pretended to be unconcerned. Me? I'm going to hang out with some female ants then take a nap. Sunny gritted his teeth and said, you really are a pervert. Chi-Chi said that he would also go to the gourmet world later but wouldn't go with them. He advised them that although the gourmet world was dangerous, it was also a place full of excitement. Whenever they got lost, they just needed to follow their gourmet demon's compass. As everyone was about to leave, Chi-Chi suddenly remembered something. I almost forgot, there's one more thing I want to give you. The Toriko group arrived at Toriko Harbor, named in honor of Toriko, the one who discovered the most ingredients. This showed how much respect he commanded in this era. It was also a nostalgic island where Toriko and Komatsu first embarked on their journey to the barren island. In other words, their story began at this harbor. They arrived at the harbor on the back of the watermelon octopus. The harbor was packed with people seeing them off. Rin ran up, calling Toriko's name, worried about her fiancé's safety. Toriko understood her feelings and told her that everything in the human world, including their upcoming wedding, was entrusted to her. He promised to bring back God to make their wedding cake. Chairman Mansam handed Toriko a large bag containing a capture-level measuring device and other important tools. He reminded Toriko that the environment in the gourmet world was like a living organism. The path they traveled would leave a trace, like territory marking, making it difficult for strong beasts to approach. In other words, the path they took would become a unique road. Currently, the human world was still recovering, with a lot of work to be done, so they needed to open up routes and transport ingredients from the gourmet world. The chairman would arrange for people to receive them. Once the route was fully established, those with certain strength could also easily enter the gourmet world through this path. Imaro told Toriko to go ahead and pave the way, the gourmet knights would follow. Zong also confidently declared, I will be the first to catch up with you, maybe even surpass you. However, no one paid attention to his words. Milk II also came to see them off. She handed Komatsu a bag containing an apron, a whetstone, and whetstone shoes. With these, Komatsu could sharpen his knives endlessly without much effort. Komatsu patted his chest, promising her that he would definitely use Milk's knives to prepare Acacia's full-course menu. People from the sand garden came to see Zebra off very early. Zebra frowned and asked, who are you? We're from the sand garden, a guy replied. Match announced that the gourmet underworld would also come to support them soon. They needed a lot of delicious ingredients, and these tasks were entrusted to pioneers like Coco. Besides these people, the chefs remaining in the human world also came. Komatsu noticed a silly figure in the crowd. Yun Yun, long time no see, Komatsu exclaimed. He hurriedly invited Yun to come along with them. Everyone was ready, each carrying their ideals, heading towards the gourmet world. Toriko's dream was to obtain God from Acacia, completing his life menu. Coco aimed to get Adam, Sunny desired the dessert earth from Acacia, while Zebra had no specific goal. As long as it was delicious, he wanted it all. As for Komatsu, their chef, he wanted to prepare all the ingredients in everyone's dreams. Their first stop would be the third entrance to the gourmet world, the ghostly harbor of Yuto Island. The watermelon octopus flew swiftly towards the gourmet world, both fast and stable, truly a means of transportation specially chosen by Chairman Ichiryu. Komatsu took out something resembling a tray and introduced it to everyone. This is a capture-level measuring system built into a food tray, a new device invented by IGO. He asked the others to wear specially designed bracelets. By using the laser beams emitted from the bracelets and shining them on ingredients, the data of those ingredients would be transmitted to this tray. Sunny was curious, this thing was developed in the human world, so why does it have data on gourmet world ingredients? Komatsu explained that he heard it was based on a gourmet ID card to create. One morning, Director Mansam woke up and found a card next to his pillow. It contained data not only on about 300,000 types of ingredients in the human world but also the data IDs of many ingredients in the gourmet world. The recorded number of ingredients reached several million. Although such good fortune rarely occurred, and they didn't know who sent it or if there were any dangers, they reluctantly decided to use it. Komatsu continued, since the gourmet world is full of mysteries, let's name this measuring device Tray Zebra, lying leisurely and swirling his wine glass. Said, whatever the name, as long as it works. There are definitely more than just a few million ingredients in the gourmet world. Who knows when we can even use this measuring device? Might as well try it out now. As he finished his sentence, a giant stingray leaped out of the water. Toriko quickly used Pear to fire a laser beam. This monster was called Devil Stingray, with a capture level of 299. They were people who had defeated even beasts over capture level 400, so there was no need to be afraid of such a low-level creature. Yuto Island was right before their eyes. It was normal for some beasts to cross the poison tide and infiltrate the human world. The Devil Stingray detected the lower-level watermelon octopus and attacked. They had no choice but to fight. Zebra jumped to his feet, ready to attack the monster, but everyone was horrified to see it pierced by a sharp wave. No one had witnessed such a scene before, they were all terrified. But upon closer inspection, it wasn't an ordinary wave, but a sea of thorns. Its color was identical to seawater, but it was actually made of sharp thorns, its power and sharpness not to be underestimated. This was the nature of the gourmet world, even beasts with a capture level of over 200 could be easily killed. Without Toriko needing to say a word, Komatsu had already run into the cabin for safety. The fighting was left to the four heavenly kings. Zebra excitedly launched Sound Bazooka towards the raging sea of thorns. Sunny used his hair shield to block the incoming waves. Coco and Toriko also quickly joined the attack. The sea of thorns was stopped, broken thorns scattering everywhere. Amidst the chaotic scene, Toriko noticed a frog leisurely drinking tea, leaning against the thorns as if nothing had happened. His actions exuded elegance and romance, like a true nobleman. Who was this frog? Toriko intended to use the measuring device to check. But it swiftly jumped and dodged the laser beam with incredible speed. After a while of fighting, the group finally passed through the sea of thorns. Komatsu breathed a sigh of relief. Zebra felt the journey was getting more and more interesting. Toriko, however, was still preoccupied with the frog. He was sure he wasn't mistaken. Who was that frog? They had now reached the harbor of Yuto Island, the most difficult route to the gourmet world. Countless ships and people were trapped here. Just anchoring at the harbor was fraught with danger, let alone passing through Yuto Island. Yuto Island was shrouded in dense fog and also known as Maze Island, capable of misleading any intruder. Even ships equipped with the most advanced equipment, once lost in this fog, would sink without a trace before even finding the island. Komatsu found this place creepy. The ships here were not stranded but seemed to be floating. Toriko bravely laughed and told everyone to look, the gourmet souls were waving to them. Komatsu turned to look and nearly had a heart attack. On the decks, skeletons were waving. Komatsu couldn't stand the shock and shouted, "Ghosts!" Toriko thought that if it were ghosts, it would be easier to handle. But this was the gourmet world. The gourmet world had 8 main continents. According to the division, the area Toriko and the others were entering was Area 8, connected to Yuto Island. It was said to be the continent where Acacia's salad heir resided. Yuto Island was enveloped in a thick fog, making it impossible to see anything ahead with the naked eye. Zebra was still enthusiastic as usual. This place is amazing. From here on is an uncharted world, with many paths yet to be discovered. In short, whether we can see clearly or not, we must move forward. Hearing everyone's excited shouts, the watermelon octopus also enthusiastically sped up. Suddenly, the entire group, along with the watermelon octopus, plunged into a giant abyss. Good heavens! Why isn't there any land here? Komatsu cried out, his face pale with fear. Where did the gourmet world's ground go? What happened? As soon as he spoke, Queen swiftly darted out from the watermelon octopus's mouth. Its massive body stretched upwards endlessly, reaching the ground above in the blink of an eye. It opened its jaws wide, clamping onto the ground, its huge tail wrapped tightly around the watermelon octopus, trying to pull it up. Sunny exclaimed with joy, "My baby did it again." However, Queen suddenly felt a sharp pain throughout its body. Missile sausages pierced through its body like bullets. If it were just 1 or 2, Queen could still handle it. But this was a whole barrage of missile sausages densely raining down on its body. In less than half a minute, Queen's body was riddled with wounds. The excruciating pain made Queen's muscles bulge, but it still clung tightly to the ground. It knew it was everyone's only hope for survival. The slightest slip-up, and those on the back of the watermelon octopus would be doomed. At that moment, Kiss rushed to help. It used its precise attack speed to take down each missile sausage one by one. But it wasn't just a large number of missile sausages, there was also a bird demon with a capture level of 251. In front of this giant monster, the missile sausages were like mere snacks. Yun Yun had to use all his strength to dodge and manage to survive. Kiss quickly turned and charged towards the monster. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. Komatsu and Yun trembled with fear. However, Zebra appeared quite relaxed. "How boring," he muttered, standing up and walking towards the cabin. "Hurry up and finish them off. I'm going to sleep." So boring. Only then did everyone notice a bizarrely shaped giant monster had appeared nearby. Coco urgently warned everyone, but Toriko and Sunny were already enveloped in fog. In the blink of an eye, they were snatched away by the monster. Komatsu broke out in a cold sweat. Sunny immediately activated his tracking mode. Zebra gathered energy for his sound wave. "Can you entertain me a bit?" he asked, firing continuous sound waves towards the monster floating in midair. While Zebra confronted the monster, Sunny used his hair to track down Toriko and Coco, wanting to pull them back. However, the monster's retreat speed was too fast, surpassing the range of Sunny's hair. Terry gathered strength in his legs, preparing to jump and chase after them. Just then, Toriko's voice rang out, "Terry, don't come over here." "I'm fine. Protect everyone." Terry blinked, seeming to understand. Zebra opened his energy shield and said in an annoyed tone, "What are you yelling for?" As if I didn't know. Seeing that no one seemed to be planning on rescuing Toriko and Coco, Komatsu anxiously asked, "Aren't we going to save Toriko and Coco?" Zebra immediately retorted, "You fool. Think about the consequences." He continued, "Moving forward requires taking risks, but not risks that would get us all killed." Moreover, he had faith in Toriko and Coco's teamwork. He believed they would be alright. Komatsu's bracelet actually had a communication function, but it couldn't establish contact with Toriko and Coco at the moment. Perhaps this strange fog was interfering with the signal. Zebra's sound bazooka was also useless. He couldn't use echolocation to pinpoint their location. However, Sunny had secretly prepared a tracking method. He was using his meticulously controlled hair to track Toriko and Coco. At this moment, Toriko and Coco were drifting through the thick fog. The white mist prevented them from seeing the ground clearly. "Coco, are you okay?" Hearing Toriko's voice, Coco breathed a sigh of relief. They were both fine for now, but the fog was too thick, and they didn't know where they were. As the two were fumbling for a way out, Coco suddenly felt a strange electromagnetic wave. He called it strange because its appearance was unbelievable. He told Toriko to try and smell it. Toriko inhaled deeply, and then his eyes suddenly sprang open. "The smell of food!" he exclaimed, and then ran like the wind toward the source of the scent. "It can't be anything else, it's the smell of food." Coco hurriedly chased after him. Breaking through the dense fog, the two arrived at an unexpected sight, a town. The ancient streets were lined with countless food stalls. The aroma of food wafted through the air, stimulating every cell in Toriko and Coco's bodies and awakening their primal desire to eat. Toriko swallowed hard. Why is there a food street in the gourmet world? It looks so normal and cozy. Coco was equally surprised. He looked at the tables in the restaurants. The place was quiet with food but no vendors. However, the food was all real and steaming hot as if it had just been cooked. Not far from them sat a frog leisurely enjoying wine. It was the same frog Toriko had met before. Noticing their gazes, it slowly spoke, "This is the real mist. It's not about real or fake, it's about whether you believe or not. In the gourmet world, that's all that matters, only those who believe." At that moment, Sunny, who was secretly following behind and preparing to rescue them, had a bad feeling. At this moment, both Toriko and Coco had been captivated by the food and began to devour it. The frog leisurely raised its glass, its words laced with hidden meaning, "As long as you believe, I can treat you." Toriko had completely fallen for the food eating non-stop. "I can't believe I can enjoy restaurant-quality food in the gourmet world. I haven't found a place like this in the past year and a half." Coco, looking at the steaming bowl of soup, pondered. "I wish Komatsu and the others were here. This soup doesn't seem poisonous." The frog, still holding its glass, explained to Toriko with a knowing look, "The fog has cleared a bit, but it has nothing to do with the weather. In the gourmet world, every day is a sunny day, perfect for enjoying delicious food." This made Toriko even happier, and he shared that he also enjoyed eating this way in the human world. However, he was more curious about the frog's name. The frog turned its head and explained, "The gourmet world has far surpassed human intelligence. It will shatter all the limits we've come to know. New knowledge is constantly being discovered. Simply put, in the gourmet world, what you can imagine, and even what you can't imagine, can appear. From the appearance, the aroma, to the taste, everything. The old palate will disappear in the blink of an eye, and a whole new sense of taste will awaken." "You mean after coming to the gourmet world, the knowledge accumulated in the human world might be overturned?" Coco asked. "The real mist is just a type of weather phenomenon in the gourmet world, but it contains endless possibilities. It's a miracle of nature and could be the source of completely new and delicious ingredients." He suddenly remembered something. "Oh right, there's something I haven't told you. Back at the Thorny Sea, I accidentally pointed my laser at you." "It's no big deal, don't worry about it." Toriko grinned mischievously. "Then why didn't you dodge at that time?" The frog blinked, looking a little bewildered. Taking advantage of that moment, Toriko shot a laser beam at its chest. However, the frog didn't panic. Toriko guessed that it would soon disappear into thin air. He stared at the frog, waiting for the inevitable. As expected, the frog's body quickly withered, as if all the life had been sucked out of it. Every day in the gourmet world is a sunny day, perfect for enjoying delicious food, but also a sunny day for death. Its voice grew fainter as its body shrunk. Finally, its head slumped onto the table with a loud thud. Toriko and Coco jumped back in fear. At that same moment, Komatsu's bracelet received data from Toriko. Sunny closed his eyes, focusing on pinpointing Toriko and Coco's location. "What are those two idiots doing in there? It's not good they're surrounded." Meanwhile, inside, Toriko and Coco had attracted the attention of another monstrous creature. It opened its maw, revealing rows of sharp teeth, looking utterly horrifying. Is the price for the meal blood, and only the blood of that frog is nutritious enough for it? Coco shuddered. Toriko and Coco hadn't expected other creatures to exist in this place. The monster was incredibly agile. One moment it was in the restaurant, the next it was clinging to the roof, sharp teeth, sharp claws, and a sinuous body. It looked like a gigantic lizard. With a single swipe of its tail, it flipped the entire restaurant. Toriko and Coco dodged out of the way and stood in the middle of the street. The monster roared angrily, "Are you trying to eat for free? Not a chance." In the blink of an eye, countless other monsters emerged from everywhere, surrounding Toriko and Coco. The lead monster roared, "We won't let you eat for free. Eat for free." Before Toriko could finish his sentence, he felt his body constrict. His face felt like it was being crushed, and his entire body trembled uncontrollably. He felt his strength being sapped away. Looking over at the frog lying on the table, he saw a creature clinging to it, sucking its blood frantically. Toriko hastily took off his jacket, as he suspected his body was covered in blood-sucking leeches. The creatures wriggled, draining his blood at an alarming rate, as if they were trying to drain the entire ocean. In the blink of an eye, Toriko was utterly drained. The frog, having been drained earlier, was now nothing but a dried husk, which soon dissipated into thin air. Anyone unfortunate enough to be targeted by these blood-sucking leeches would be drained dry in minutes. Not even a heavenly king like Toriko could escape this fate? But then again, in this real mist where reality was blurred, who could say for sure what was real and what wasn't? Look at Coco, he seemed completely unharmed. Coco had figured it out, it was all an illusion. This real mist was nothing but a sham from the beginning. He realized that the reason he hadn't been attacked was that his body was poisonous. The leeches couldn't suck his blood, they would definitely choose a physical attack to deal with him. As if to confirm his suspicions, as soon as he finished his thought, hundreds of monsters charged towards him, spitting poisonous projectiles. The projectiles rained down, leaving no room for escape. Coco quickly responded, his hands a blur as he threw spinning darts, deflecting the poisonous projectiles mid-air. He successfully neutralized almost every single attack. However, one monster took advantage of his momentary lapse in concentration and charged towards him. "This is my chance," it roared, firing a barrage of projectiles at Coco. However, when it came to speed and wit, Coco was still superior. The monster had only managed to grab a poison doll created by Coco. Enraged, the monster didn't even pause to think before attacking again. Unfortunately for it, it had once again grabbed hold of another one of Coco's poison dolls. And it wasn't just that, even Toriko's lifeless body covered in blood-sucking leeches was also a poison doll. The leeches on Toriko's body dropped to the ground, proving Coco's words to be true. The lead monster was bewildered. When did they do that? How did we not notice? Coco smirked triumphantly. From the very beginning, from the moment we stepped into this real mist, we were already dolls. Perhaps you should pay more attention to your surroundings. The monster only now noticed their surroundings after being reminded by Coco. The sky had changed, the air was no longer filled with the real mist but with poison gas released by Coco. The monster finally realized it had been tricked. Those spinning darts weren't meant to attack but to disperse the poison. Unfortunately, by the time it realized this, it was already too late. Facing the panicking monsters, Coco simply stated, "It's not about real or fake, it's about whether you believe or not. Whether you believe it or not, I'm still the winner." All the monsters collapsed poisoned. Coco watched, letting out a sigh. His poison dolls were nearing their limit. The moment Toriko told him about the frog, Coco had already planned this whole act. It was a perfect performance. However, what surprised Toriko the most was the quality of the poison dolls. It was almost impossible to distinguish them from real people. He asked Coco, "Is this also the power of that monster inside of you?" Coco answered without hesitation. "That's right, these poison dolls were created using my power. By infusing them with life poison, the poison itself transforms into a living organism. Adding a bit of emotion allows me to create dolls that are almost identical to real people. However, doing this requires a considerable amount of energy. Creating 2 dolls in such a short time is already my limit. But what bothers me more is that Sunny's feelers haven't stopped buzzing this whole time," Coco said, his face turning grim. It seems the puppet master is about to make an entrance. Looking at the grotesque faces of various sizes and expressions in front of him, Toriko put on his milk bracelet, ready for battle. "Coco, you step back, it's my turn." Outside, Sunny and Komatsu were worried sick, but inside it was as if nothing had happened. Sunny urged Toriko and Coco to run while they still could. Looking at the latest data from Toriko, Komatsu's face turned pale. Their current opponent is the monster that kidnapped them in the first place, the Tonyuden. Sunny felt a cold sweat run down his back. From the moment they were kidnapped, Toriko and Coco had been trapped within the Tonyuden's territory. He had no idea how to fight this monstrous creature. The countless faces, big and small, with their different shapes and expressions, were a terrifying sight. Then the massive head at the center spoke, "Humans from the harbor. It's been so many years since someone has set foot here. How should I eat you? I'm really looking forward to it. Trying to scare the four heavenly kings with illusions, you miscalculated Tonuten, Toriko scoffed, feigning nonchalance. He was no stranger to illusions and fear tactics. This time he summoned his monstrous appetite devil, showing Tonuten a horrifying hallucination of itself being skewered and roasted over a fire by a red demon. It was an enhanced version of his intimidation tactic, combined with the chilling aura of the king's dinner. The Tonutens' faces contorted in terror, their eyes bulged, drool dribbling from their mouths as they vanished like smoke. All that remained was a single, gigantic face, fainted dead on the ground. With the illusion dispelled, Toriko and Coco reappeared. Safe and sound, standing on solid ground once more. Everything they had experienced was nothing but a figment of Tonuten's imagination. To think you took them down with just intimidation, that's amazing, Toriko. Coco exclaimed, genuinely impressed. Dealing with those level 500 to 600 monsters doesn't require much effort anyway, Toriko chuckled, brushing it off. Komatsu and the others were worried for nothing. Despite Toriko's relaxed demeanor, Coco couldn't shake off a feeling of awe. Even as a bystander, he could sense the terrifying power within that illusion. And yet Toriko had broken free so effortlessly. Is this the result of a year and a half of training in the gourmet world? He wondered. Meanwhile, Zebra finally stirred, stretching languidly as he yawned. Is it over? I'm starving. Komatsu immediately understood Zebra's indifferent reaction. He had seen through the illusion from the start, hence his bored facade. Did you think something like that could faze me? Now food. Zebra said, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Look, Toriko exclaimed, pointing towards the fallen Tonuten. Its eye was now leaking a continuous stream of soybean tears. Looking closer, they noticed the creature was covered in a layer of what seemed to be delicious tofu skin. So even though this guy looks hideous, it's actually edible from head to toe, Toriko remarked. Komatsu's chef DNA instantly activated at the mention of edible ingredients. Pulling out his trusty giant pot from within the watermelon octopus, he got to work. A mouth-watering aroma soon filled the air as Komatsu whipped up a feast. There was a steaming pot of tofu hot pot, brimming with tofu fish sausage and tenderized bird meat. The monstrous leech-like creatures, now detoxified, were sliced and grilled to perfection. And of course, no Komatsu special was complete without his signature rich broth and creamy mayonnaise. Every dish was a testament to his exceptional culinary skills. Toriko, drooling at the sight, dug in with gusto after offering his thanks. The tofu skin, thinly sliced and incredibly tender, melted in his mouth. To think this hideous creature could produce such delicious tofu skin. It's like a culinary underdog story, Sunny exclaimed between sobs, deeply moved by the taste. Zebra, not one for elaborate descriptions, chose to express his satisfaction by stuffing his face. Komatsu's jaw dropped when he saw Zebra lift the entire pot to his mouth. At least use a bowl, he cried out in dismay. It wasn't just the four heavenly kings and Komatsu who were enjoying the feast. Queen Terry, kissed June, and even the watermelon octopus were happily digging in. As they ate, Komatsu was overwhelmed with emotion. My dream is to travel the world with everyone sharing meals like this, he confessed, tears welling up in his eyes. Toriko smiled warmly at him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Komatsu, this is all thanks to you. Just then a series of loud croak-croak sounds reached their ears. Turning around, they saw a dapper-looking frog driving towards them in a cute little car. Everyone was taken aback by his peculiar appearance, a comical blend of fashionable and tacky. The frog, sporting a pair of sunglasses, greeted them with a cool demeanor. Unfortunately, he spoke in frog language, leaving everyone clueless. The frog tilted its head in confusion when everyone continued to stare blankly. Croak croak, what is that thing? Sunny and Komatsu blurted out in unison. The frog finally realized he had been speaking in frog language and quickly apologized in human tongue. Toriko's jaw dropped. It's you, the frog we met at the Thorny Sea. Indeed, the name's Croak Croak in your tongue, you can call me Mappy, the frog replied with a slight bow. Mappy introduced himself as an explorer from the bewitching food world, his trusty steed a 455 level beast Sararu. He was sent by the esteemed Daruma hermit to escort them. What does that old geezer Daruma want with us? Zebra questioned. Don't tell me he's found some delicious ingredients for us. Komatsu suddenly recalled seeing Daruma hermit's tribute on Zebra's menu. He also remembered Zebra borrowing the hermit's mount. According to Mappy, the Daruma hermit was their village chief. Speaking of the bewitching food world, Komatsu thought of Brunch. Wasn't that Brunch's home? I'm sure Brunch is looking forward to seeing you all again, Mappy chirped. I have no interest in seeing that idiot, Zebra scoffed. Komatsu, however, was determined to visit this bewitching food world, but since he went through the trouble of sending for us, we should accept his invitation, right? Besides, we'll get to experience the delicacies of the bewitching food world, he said, his voice laced with excitement. Sunny, on the other hand, had reservations. The ingredients in the bewitching food world are quite bizarre. Who knows if they're even edible, let alone delicious, he pointed out. But Toriko didn't seem to care. For him, as long as it was edible, it was good enough. Besides, didn't Chichi say to follow our gourmet compass when we're lost, he reminded them. Zebra rolled his eyes were not lost. Toriko ignored him and turned to Mappy. Lead the way. Sunny leaned in towards Toriko whispering, are you sure about this? He's a frog. It seems awfully suspicious to just follow him blindly. Don't worry, I don't smell any danger on him. It's fine, Toriko assured him. Sunny frowned, unconvinced by Toriko's reasoning, so because he doesn't smell bad it means he's trustworthy, but he's so ugly. Alright everyone get on board, we're about to depart. Mappy announced, gesturing toward his car. Initially everyone was eager, however as soon as Soraro sped up they were left in the dust. Wait up, they shouted, urging the watermelon octopus to chase after Mappy's vehicle at full speed. They soon arrived at what seemed like a giant maze, surrounded by towering white rock formations. Your basic strength is more than enough to survive in the gourmet world, Mappy commented, casually stretching his legs on the car roof. Who does this frog think he is, talking down to us? Sunny grumbled. Don't underestimate Mappy, Toriko warned Sunny. Just think, could you drive through the thorny sea while casually sipping coffee like him? Coco chimed in, impressed by Mappy's nonchalance. Mappy Komatsu asked, is it always this dangerous at night in the gourmet world? Day and night in the gourmet world are two completely different beasts, Mappy explained. This place is dangerous even in broad daylight and especially so at night, but you guys can easily take down a Tonyuden, so there's nothing to worry about. He paused for emphasis before adding, however you should know that nighttime is when the 8 kings reign supreme. Komatsu shuddered at the mention of the 8 kings. He knew they were the 8 apex predators ruling over the gourmet world. Before Mappy could continue, an oppressive force pressed down on them, rendering them immobile. Mappy, removing his sunglasses, glanced up at the sky. Sararu, why did you take a shortcut through here? The watermelon octopus trembled on the verge of fainting. This is the footprint of Heracles the Horse King, one of the 8 kings left behind thousands of years ago, Mappy explained, his voice hushed with reverence. This 8th region is his territory. A cold sweat broke out on Toriko and the others as they struggled against the overwhelming pressure. Even a footprint left behind millennia ago still held such terrifying power. They couldn't help but shudder at the thought of what would happen if they encountered the Horse King himself. Would they be crushed like ants? Just one look at this barren wasteland tells you how powerful the Horse King is. Zebra remarked, his voice grave. Ha, you can tell what kind of mood Heracles was in by looking at his footprints, Mappy said with a chuckle. When he's angry the area around his footprints becomes barren like this. But when he's in a good mood they transform into lush fields, clear lakes, and become havens for all sorts of creatures. Komatsu, having never experienced anything quite as exhilarating as this, felt a familiar sensation creeping up on him. His face contorted into a comical expression of sheer terror. If this were the human world, this footprint alone would be a World Heritage Site, he exclaimed. You worry too much, Mappy reassured him with a chuckle. The 8 kings, each one reigns supreme over their own continent in the gourmet world. When they all travel together, that's when night falls on the gourmet world. Coco drew a parallel to the human world. It's similar to when high-ranking officials make visits and maximum security measures are put in place. In other words, the entire gourmet world is currently on high alert. Despite the tense atmosphere, Mappy seemed unfazed. At night it's not just the beasts that become stronger, but the environment also becomes harsher, he explained. Since ancient times, to survive, creatures have had to avoid both the 8 kings and the harsh environments while searching for food. This led to the formation of many travel routes known as gourmet streets. These are the rare safe havens in the gourmet world. Of course, he added, safe is a relative term. There are still plenty of dangers lurking in these parts. Toriko's eyes widened. That explains it. That's how Komatsu and I managed to survive in the gourmet world for a year and a half. It dawned on him that they had been lucky enough to stumble upon these gourmet streets. It's next to impossible to find these gourmet streets without a considerable amount of luck, Mappy chimed in. Moreover, these gourmet streets connect the 7 civilizations that once existed in the gourmet world. The bewitching food world is one of them. As they continued their journey, the scenery transformed once more. This time they found themselves before an expanse of glittering golden water, a stark contrast to the desolate surroundings. This was the Golden Swamp, a vast swamp of golden sand, heavier than lead, known for its incredibly strong buoyancy. Objects could float effortlessly on its surface, and the golden shimmer, that was sunlight reflecting off millions upon millions of golden sand particles, creating a breathtaking spectacle. It's breathtaking, Sunny whispered, tears welling up in his eyes. With a view like this, who cares about the bewitching food world? Just one glimpse is enough to last a lifetime. The sky was pitch black, but as everyone was captivated by the mesmerizing scenery into the shape of giant feet, Mappy suddenly cried out in alarm. On the earth. Crow. It was the iron cloud, and it was about to fall. Everyone turned to him, startled. Warning, Toriko and his friends standing under the giant footprint were all bewildered. Cloud. Whose stinky feet are these? The clouds. Daring to trample everywhere like this. Alarmed, everyone looked up and saw a massive fell beside the octopus, resembling a slab of iron descending from waves of golden sand. This is bad. Sparkling golden water into the golden swamp in the air. A truly magnificent sight. If that thing catches us, we're done for. But this was not the time to marvel. Glancing at the words on the stone tablet, Toriko turned around and frantically explained to everyone, the iron cloud was the true entity of this island. Formed from iron clouds that had accumulated for tens of thousands of years. dense iron cloud would slowly descend. As its weight increased every few hundred years, it would sink to the ground. However, this didn't mean that only one cloud would fall at a time. On the contrary, whenever this happened to regenerate itself, the iron cloud would create a heavy downpour. It was a torrential rain of steel, as if someone was stomping down, called the iron steps. Simply put, hundreds of feet in the sky would continuously fall to the ground, potentially causing massive casualties. Toriko tried to cut off these iron feet with his leg knife, but their hardness surpassed that of ordinary steel. The demon knife only left a faint scratch on the ground, not causing any real damage. Numerous iron feet, along with an entire giant iron cloud, gradually descended. If we can't get through, then we go back. It sounded reasonable, but they didn't have time to turn back. Seeing the iron cloud about to collapse, Komatsu was so worried that his head was about to smoke. Seeing their guide return, Komatsu immediately told Sunny to get in the car and hide inside the octopus watermelon. There was still plenty of space inside the octopus watermelon, otherwise it wouldn't have been able to carry Queen Terry and the others. At this moment, the iron cloud was about to fall on the octopus watermelon's head. Thanks to his tentacles supporting it, he wasn't crushed immediately. After everyone was ready, the octopus watermelon took a deep breath and plunged into the golden abyss. At the very last second, the group successfully escaped inside the octopus watermelon. It's truly spacious. The windows are covered by a thin air membrane, preventing the golden sand from entering. Looking out from here, they can appreciate the allure of the golden claw even more. Brilliant golden light illuminates everything. Sparkling fish swim around. Mappy exhaustedly explains to Toriko, the golden sand of the golden claw is called pure gold, known for its high transparency. Toriko looks at Mappy panting heavily, feeling like he's devolved into a tadpole. We're doomed, Mappy laments. Toriko is startled. Can't we just dive into the sea and escape? Mappy draws out his words regretfully. Impossible. If we dive down from the golden claw to escape, the golden sand in the swamp will flow into a giant cave. It's the entrance to the golden labyrinth, with only an entrance and no exit. No one has ever escaped this labyrinth. We can't go down, so can we wait for the iron cloud to rise again? No, the iron cloud won't rise for at least a few years. Moreover, the golden sand is constantly shifting. The octopus watermelon can't withstand its flow. Seeing the glowing cave close by, Toriko hurriedly instructed the octopus watermelon to turn around, but it was already too late. In diving mode, the octopus watermelon was not skilled at swimming, and its memory was pulled into the cave by the golden sands. There was no turning back. Coco was puzzled. No matter how formidable the golden claw is, it shouldn't have made things so dire for him, who could leisurely drink coffee amidst the golden waves. The highly skilled frog had shrunk back, regressing into a weak tadpole. What exactly happened to Mappy? Mappy was in terrible shape, as if he were about to draw his last breath at any moment. The golden labyrinth isn't something one can navigate through sheer power alone. Those who reach the exit aren't the strongest but the ones blessed with luck. In essence, it's all about fortune. Hearing this word, they all felt reassured. Isn't that precisely what describes Komatsu? It's your turn to shine, Komatsu. Everyone turned to look at Komatsu, who, startled, looked as frightened as a gorilla. The group then split up to search the octopus watermelon's insides. The rooms within were well equipped, though the bathroom and toilet seemed a bit far from the bedroom. The warehouse kitchen and dining area were unusually spacious, indicating a group of food lovers once lived there. They found a manual control room with detailed operation instructions posted outside. Since they were relying on Komatsu's fortune to escape, they put him in the driver's seat and handed him full control. Toriko had confidence in Komatsu's abilities. He was certain that their smooth entry into the gourmet street was thanks to Komatsu. Komatsu would use his sense of smell to assist, while Zebra and the others would support with their own specialized patrol skills. Zebra's Echo's ability made the situation inside the cave crystal clear. The problem arose as soon as they set out. They faced a split path, with only a left or right choice. Sunny and Toriko had differing opinions. Toriko insisted on going left, but Coco was undecided. Zebra deemed the left path more feasible. However, the wildly shifting golden sands left them no time for discussion. They were about to crash into the rock wall in the center when Komatsu grabbed the control and made the octopus exhale sharply, stopping their momentum. Everyone was so shocked by the sudden movement that they were wide-eyed. Komatsu pulled the control lever, maneuvering successfully through the situation, even though they didn't know when the next crisis would arise. Surviving this one brought a sigh of relief. Mappy, still weakened, was full of doubts. He wondered how these people could remain so cheerful in such an impenetrable labyrinth, as if they knew the way out. But their group of 5 was truly remarkable, carving an unbelievable new path through the endless maze. He thought maybe they really could succeed. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the gourmet world, Joie laughed maniacally. Magnificent acacia. So this is what they call fortune. Joie had found the path to the gourmet star's banquet table with precise timing, showcasing unparalleled luck. Yet even at the peak of fortune, Joie's desires surged within him. Only the chosen ones could pave this path, a treasure even Acacia himself coveted. To Acacia, fortune held significant importance. People only appreciate health after illness, and only after loss do they value the simplicity of each day. For Acacia, who had everything, everyday life was mundane. He didn't need to experience loss to know. His insatiable appetite told him everything. It informed him of the countless ingredients he didn't yet possess, the known but untasted foods that fascinated him. It made him aware of the vastness of his hunger even as he slept. Blue Nitro, leaning on his hand, watched Joie's ambition with a sinister reminder. You're the second human to carve a path to the gourmet star. Joie smirked. The first was my mother Frozy, right? She saw this path from the very beginning. Can fortune bloom with Acacia's full course? The other Nitro confirmed that under certain conditions, it could. This solidified Joie's resolve. He would not share Acacia's full course with anyone. Before the table of Blue Nitro, Joie made a bold declaration. He would claim the full course himself and leave the rest to his subordinates. Rest assured, the arc has long been completed. On the other side, his loyal group received Joie's signal and prepared for action. Shigematsu excitedly shouted to everyone that Acacia's full course was about to awaken. The sight of the extending deer made Kasero smile in awe. What a miracle, an empty space yet a path appears the moment Joie steps on it. The director chuckled, noting that the path had always existed. Joie had merely seen it the correct path. The little guy trailing them fell into deep thought as he stared at the road ahead. Is it really that amazing? Aren't there paths everywhere? Don't reveal that. It's true that seeing many paths could make you as popular. Meanwhile, Komatsu, steering the octopus watermelon, led everyone out of danger. Mappy was shocked. He couldn't believe they had found the exit. Back to his pre-diving state, Mappy watched as everyone surrounded and praised Komatsu, yet Mappy kept replaying Toriko's words in his mind. Toriko had said that without Komatsu they wouldn't have made it to Gourmet Street. So did Komatsu truly see the path of golden fortune? Though unaware of his own luck, Komatsu was no ordinary man. Along the way, the team had even taken treasure chests from the cave. One particular can caught Komatsu's eye just as a massive drop of water struck the octopus, shaking it violently. Mappy explained that this was due to the dominant fish in Area 8, which caused such rainfall, but there was no danger. In fact, they could take the opportunity for a relaxing bath. After bathing and eating, the rain hadn't stopped. Out of nowhere, a creepy eyeball floated through the air, scaring Komatsu half to death. Mappy reassured him. That's a guardian from the village coming to pick us up. He called out, look. There's the entrance to our village. It's the Hex Food World. Looking up, they saw the gates of the Hex Food World ahead. Komatsu noticed a ghostly blue flame rising at the main entrance, drifting like a spirit then slowly spreading apart. Mappy pointed at the strange sight, excitedly shouting, look, the pregnant fireworks are going off. Is that really fireworks? Are there even fireworks that rise so slowly? They aren't colorful at all. In fact, they're eerie. It's not sending someone off, is it? Their arrival had already been reported to Tengu Castle, where Branch shouted commands to his subordinates. Tonight we celebrate. Toriko instructed Terry and the others to wait with the octopus at the entrance, but Komatsu couldn't contain his excitement. Hoping to see Branch after so long, Coco thoughtfully had kissed stay behind, promising to bring back delicious food. Mappy suddenly realized, wait, did we bring any ingredients? Toriko, did you? Everyone exchanged glances, realizing they might need gifts. Mappy explained, in the gourmet world everything is traded for ingredients, meals, lodging, goods. Money is worthless, only ingredients have value. Zebra remarked, I didn't bring money anyway. Sunny teased, because you always take things by force. Never mind, let's see what we can do, they agreed as they pressed on. Komatsu followed behind Mappy with eager anticipation as they approached the main entrance. Suddenly many small eyes popped out from the ground, their heads wobbling. While their fluffy appearance might have been endearing, the black, oily sludge covering their bodies was somewhat revolting. Sunny was startled and almost fainted when a creature called Mooney popped its head up. He couldn't understand why he always encountered such gross things. Komatsu was also so scared he kept shouting. The scariest moment came from Zebra. His booming voice commanded, disappear. The Mooney creatures froze in place, eyes nearly popping out from their sockets. Thanks to Zebra's intimidation, they saw no more Mooney creatures on their way into the village. Passing through the entrance, the village's overall scenery unfolded. Winding streets were lined with all sorts of stalls, bustling and lively. The crowd and curious gazes greeted them warmly as they walked in. Mappy, delighted to be home, ran up to greet them. The villagers, though friendly, all had bizarre appearances. By comparison, someone like Brunch would probably be considered the village's heartthrob. Sonny, with his extreme aesthetic standards, couldn't handle the visual shock. These strange creatures shattered his perception of appearances once again. At that moment, a long-haired, bearded man approached Sonny, sighing deeply. Oh, it's been so long since a human visited the village. Sunny retreated in fright, thinking, what kind of creature is this? Mappy patted his shoulder and introduced, this is Takeshi, the little brother of that famous Numerihian's grandson. Sunny muttered, so his name is Takeshi? Suddenly, Komatsu shouted in surprise, whoa! A faceless creature. Mappy quickly explained, this is no Pakichi, Komatsu, he does have a face, his facial features are just very small, possibly because of his large head. Other villagers were equally strange, including cockroaches evolved from Mars and cross-species giant spiders. Sunny was on the brink of losing it, he really didn't want to deal with these unsettling creatures. At the same time he was a bit curious whether there were cockroaches on Mars. Toriko meanwhile was focused on finding delicious food, catching a whiff of an unusually fragrant takoyaki. Hearing about food, Komatsu excitedly followed, while Coco, feeling a bit unsatisfied, said, you're gonna eat already? I haven't finished exploring yet. Toriko and Komatsu arrived at the takoyaki stand. There was only one older man running it, but the takoyaki machine was huge. Rumor had it that it could make 2,000 pieces at a time. Toriko boldly ordered 2,000 pieces as an appetizer. The iron table in the storage area was soon filled with takoyaki. With lightning speed, the owner flipped them over in an instant. Komatsu marveled, this speed, this skill. I couldn't manage the scale and size. Freshly made takoyaki was ready and Toriko grabbed a big bowl and started eating without stopping. The outside was soft while the inside was chewy and flavorful with a slight crunch, absolutely irresistible. But Sunny was different. Just looking at the bizarre appearance of the takoyaki killed his appetite. The group continued to wander around. Everywhere they looked, there were new and interesting sights. Someone called out to Zebra, hey friend, want to join us for a drink? Zebra shot them a sharp glance. The shopkeeper, frightened, quickly apologized. Toriko and Komatsu were having the good time. Komatsu exclaimed, I never thought the gourmet world would be this fun. I always imagined it to be scarier and more disgusting. Komatsu spotted a kitchenware store filled with all kinds of items. A beautiful kitchen knife caught his eye. It looked familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. The shopkeeper praised him for his good taste. It was a knife he made, taught by a customer about a year ago. Although that person was big and silent, they were a genuine artisan. Hearing this, Komatsu understood. Coco wandered into a toy store and found many interesting weapons and plush toys. He particularly liked a dark bandage roll. Sunny, bored and disgusted, suddenly he noticed a store that looked somewhat normal, not as creepy as the others, but the name was puzzling. 18 pounds of canned meat for beauty? He couldn't resist. Sunny bought a can and gently opened it. Inside was a tiny girl unclothed and blushing. Sunny froze in shock, then threw it away as if it were something filthy. Toriko and Komatsu were used to Sunny's dramatic reactions, but this time it seemed like he was genuinely traumatized. He must have encountered something truly horrifying. However, their concern vanished when they spotted a mixed porridge shop. Just the thought of it was delicious, so they pulled Sunny in. The bowl of porridge was thick with a few eyeballs floating on top. It looked eerie but tasted absolutely amazing. Toriko was full of praise. Sunny couldn't bring himself to eat and planned to have bananas to cleanse his stomach. But these weren't ordinary bananas, they were natto bananas. Opening them to reveal the sticky natto made Sunny feel like passing out, yet Toriko and Komatsu ate happily. After the meal the group headed to a bar. Coco, who didn't drink much, ordered a ghost coffee milk. Meanwhile Toriko and the others enthusiastically shouted cheers. While they partied wildly, Brunch had long grown impatient. He had prepared a grand feast and had been waiting forever, but no one showed up. Seeing the group drunk and oblivious, Brunch stormed over angrily, why are you here? All the food on my side is ready, why haven't you come yet? How long are you planning to make me wait? Brunch's tirade left everyone stunned. Komatsu's eyes went wide. Mouth agape, Brunch, I missed you so much. No sooner had he spoken than he started vomiting. Coco, already tipsy, staggered over. I'm drinking alcoholic coffee milk, you know. And then he too started throwing up. Brunch panicked. Coco, you can't throw up. If you vomit poison, we're doomed. Brunch then took the whole group to Tengu Castle and brewed Yeti snow tea to sober them up. Listening to stories of Brunch's legendary feats and his incredible cooking skills, Zebra remarked, the taste is decent, but his personality. What a handful. Brunch, overhearing this, wanted nothing more than to punch Zebra. Among these people, Zebra was the one Brunch disliked the most due to his unpredictable temper. Toriko reminisced about when the human world was in danger, and how the gourmet world had offered a lot of help. Brunch confirmed that's right, at that time the only ingredients left here were golden eggs and takoyaki. But that was because the leader of the Bishokukai had been meddling. Brunch swore to take him down if they ever met again. Toriko took a sip of tea and said calmly, if you could handle him you wouldn't be suffering like this. Komatsu and I have met him before. He has the power to destroy everything if he wants. Right now he's probably stronger than anyone and he's terrifyingly hungry. Speaking of hunger, Zebra started to feel hungry and urged Brunch to serve the food. Brunch was exasperated. Didn't you all just eat till you were stuffed? Coco got serious. For the future of the human world we can't stay here long. This time we want to meet Daruma. Well, you're in luck because he's on the brink of death, Brunch said. Everyone was shocked. Since when? Brunch continued, he's at the therapeutic hot spring now. There's a doctor from the human world treating him, so he should be fine. Just then Mappy rushed in breathless, it's bad, Daruma's condition. The whole group hurried to the hot spring. but seeing Zebra still calmly sipping his tea, it didn't seem too serious. Daruma lay flat on the ground, drenched in sweat, his face pale. Surrounding him were villagers milk the first IGO staff. Daruma was gasping for breath, his body trembling, looking like he was at death's door. Brunch anxiously shouted, "Oh well man, are you okay?" Daruma slowly opened his eyes, a dazed expression on his face. He waved his hand trying to say something, then closed his eyes again. "Brunch," yelled old man. Daruma opened his eyes again, his lips moving. Brunch leaned in close. "Say whatever you want." "Old man." Before he could say anything, Daruma closed his eyes again. Brunch screamed in despair. Daruma reacted again, but this time Brunch was no longer upset. He slapped Daruma on the forehead. "This is ridiculous. What do you want? Decide if you want to live or die already." Adashino, who had witnessed the entire scene, spoke up. "He's fine, he probably just peeked at someone bathing and got a bit too excited." Hearing this, Brunch was furious. Seeing Daruma's still racing heartbeat and dazed mind, Brunch grew even angrier. He grabbed Daruma's beard and prepared to lash out. Wake up now. You perverted old man." Komatsu and Sani were stunned to learn that the beautiful woman was none other than Adashino, the genius surgeon who could cure any illness with just a kitchen knife. Even as a gourmet specialist, she was a formidable figure in the human world, but why are her eyes like that? As IGO's number 0 operative, she appeared alongside Master Ichiryu a year and a half ago, Adashino explained, and she's not the only one. Milk is here as well. Milk the first stepped out from behind them. However, compared to his previous appearance, he had lost his left arm. It seemed that the quiet craftsman mentioned by the shopkeeper was indeed the Milk. Milk spoke, but his voice was so soft that the Komatsu group couldn't hear anything. Only Zebra could hear him. He translated Milk's words for everyone. He's talking about what happened a year and a half ago, and how to capture Acacia's salad air. Milk used soundstones to tell the 4 kings and Brunch how to prepare air, then instructed them to split up and depart in 4 directions. Komatsu didn't understand why they had to act separately. Wouldn't it be safer and more reassuring to travel together? Adashino explained that it was to avoid the risk of the entire group being wiped out. When the gourmet world entered night, the climate in Area 8 became much harsher, to the point where even the spring of origin couldn't be approached casually. The land leading to the center of Area 8 was originally the rain area. Although it was marked as sea on the map, it was actually a desolate wasteland with all kinds of storms raging. Initially, they planned to divide into 10 or 20 groups. But since the targets were the 4 kings, dividing into 4 directions was sufficient. Of course, they couldn't accurately determine the location based on the 4 kings alone. They had anticipated this. Therefore, they arranged 3 guides, including the talented Saisia Dinner, the food hunter of Kappa Valley Nosh, and the famous chef that everyone knows, Tengu Brunch. Mappy explained that they were the current representatives of the Hex Food world, each with top-notch strength, almost on par with the Hex Food Beast Knights led by himself, Nopakichi and Takishi. Naturally, 4 paths and only 3 guides wouldn't be enough, so Mappy would lead the final group himself. Regarding the person following Mappy, he especially emphasized, "You'd better prepare yourself thoroughly." Grandpa Daruma opened his eyes and said to Mappy with reluctance, "Don't push yourself too hard, if possible. I'm serious. If it's really possible, then you absolutely must do it. Although I can't guarantee 100%, I believe you can get air. This old man has a strong feeling that if I can eat air, my illness will be completely cured." Brunch interrupted the rambling old man with disgust. That lecherous old man, the horny Daruma. Why not just try dying once and get it over with? After setting off, Brunch turned to look at Zebra following behind him and laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha, Zebra. Did that lecherous old geezer force you to come along too?" Zebra replied with a blank face. "That old man asked me to help eavesdrop on some things. Consider it the price for exchanging for cooking ingredients, but could it be that all the guys with titles like hermit are horny old men?" Brunch wasn't sure either. Maybe all hermits are like that. But there was no time to think because the group had arrived at Stardust Hill, where countless large and small meteorites rained down like crazy. Each impact with the ground created a small explosion. Crossing this place was no different than going through a heavy artillery battlefield. Zebra, on the other hand, found this place quite interesting. Compared to Bomber Fire, this place is much cuter. But then he wondered, why do I have to team up with that Tengu guy? Barely provoked by him and was close to fighting on the spot. Sani was paired with Nash, who yelled, "Hurry up, mommy. You're kinda slow, let's get air." Sani almost lost it. "It's not mommy, it's Sani. How can you get both syllables wrong when there are only 2? Then Sani suddenly remembered, wait, weren't we supposed to visit Daruma? How did it turn into fetching air for him? And why do I have to team up with this weird Kappa guy? And this hideous outfit, it's so tacky and has absolutely no style." Sensing Sani's impending meltdown, Nash explained, "This is a demon feather cloak, made from the feathers of the mysterious Noko demon bird. It has top-tier defense in the monster world." Sani really couldn't stand Nash's choppy staccato way of speaking. He was just about to walk away when a scorching laser beam swept past him from behind. They were in the plains of the bee's nest, where laser rain fell from the sky. The only way to get through this was to use nimble footwork to constantly dodge. And dodging everything by reflex in such a dense laser rain was truly playing with your life. But this was reality, they had no other way to pass. Meanwhile, dinner was moving with Coco. He was curious whether Coco had really been on the list of dangerous creatures. Coco didn't dodge the question, admitting frankly, and I'm even more dangerous now than I was then. Then Coco asked Dinner, of the 7 civilizations that once flourished in the gourmet world, aside from the hex food world, are there any others left? Dinner confessed that he didn't know for sure. In fact, he wasn't even sure how prosperous those places had been. Regardless of the civilization, all of them were heavily devastated, leaving only ruins and hunger. Our village has survived until now thanks to the endless optimism of everyone. The village chief once said. When everyone can genuinely smile, that is when the entire village enjoys the greatest food of all, air. Coco was supremely confident. Don't worry, we will definitely get air, so that everyone can eat it. They were currently in a poisonous grassland, but the poison here was completely harmless to them. Clearly this is a path custom designed for us. The final pair was Toriko and Komatsu. On the way while in the vehicle, Toriko asked Mappy, has anyone in the village ever eaten air? Mappy replied, the village chief had to use countless connections just to learn how to handle air. Air is the dream of the entire village. Toriko had also heard that collecting Acacia's full-course menu had to follow the correct order and route. In other words, without eating air, it wouldn't be possible to access the next dish, the soup pair in Area 7. Komatsu wondered, what effect will eating air actually have? Mappy said that's hard to say. There are many places in the gourmet world that normal humans cannot pass through. It said there are mountains where you can't breathe. Caves where growth speeds up 200,000 times, gates that only souls can enter, and ravines where time flows backwards. Could Acacia's full course be made up of ingredients that help you overcome those places? Regardless of what was said, the core was still about upgrading gourmet cells. If not as Toriko was feeling, a powerful pressure would come from somewhere, making his entire body unable to move, as if completely locked in place. This was a force of suppression that forced people to submit, and yet Mappy was calm as if nothing was happening. He asked Toriko, you feel it, right? Toriko immediately thought back to Mappy's words, prepare yourself. He understood what Mappy was planning. However, the one who truly wasn't affected was Komatsu. While Toriko was sweating profusely, Komatsu was as calm as usual. Not feeling it meant not being afraid. Toriko looked around at the scene before him, which shook his very soul. Everywhere were high-level horse species leisurely strolling. Dharma war horses, Janus unicorns, all of them were present. Komatsu was surprised. What is this? Mappy casually introduced, this is Horse King Hill, the lair of the Horse King Heracles. Toriko was drenched in sweat. He didn't understand why they had to come to such a dangerous place. Komatsu was trembling, stuttering, unable to utter a single sentence. And yet Mappy remained calm as if nothing were amiss. We, the inhabitants of the gourmet world, able to develop our own civilization, all owe our existence to the protection of the 8 kings from ancient times. We have survived until now because we are sheltered by the 8 kings, therefore we must also offer tribute to the kings. There's no hiding from the kings who rule the entire gourmet world continent. To capture air, one must face the Horse King. Mappy's chosen method was sacrifice. In Mappy's eyes there was now a shimmering haze. We will die here. But I don't know if my life can be exchanged for forgiveness from the Horse King. In the human world the 4 kings are the pinnacle, but in the eyes of the gourmet world's 8 kings, they are mere ants. Toriko felt the air become terrifyingly heavy, as if his entire body was being crushed, unable to breathe. Even raising his hand became incredibly difficult. He struggled to raise his hand, trying to look towards Komatsu. Under such immense pressure, there was no need for measurements to know how strong the opponent was. Even the concept of capture level became meaningless. As long as the aura is terrifying enough, you don't need status or background, you can still make others bow their heads. The 3 of them stood before a mature Dharma warhorse and already felt insignificant. Meanwhile, the Horse King Heracles was many times larger and more majestic. The difference in power was obvious. The Horse King Heracles didn't need to be angry, just lying there exuded an aura that shook the heavens and the earth. The repeating patterns on his body were symbols of absolute power. That aura was higher than everyone else, making Toriko and Komatsu not dare to look up. Komatsu was so scared that he was turning into a gorilla, his familiar trembling state returning. Mappy, who was prepared to sacrifice himself, calmly explained, although there are other phantom beasts Heracles, the king named Heracles is only one. Toriko felt suffocated, the air like thick, sticky clay as if plugging his nose. Mappy said that's because the air on Horse King Hill is extremely thin, so air trees grow here. Toriko recalled when he entered the gourmet world's underground forest, he had seen this type of tree that could generate air. Mappy sighed. Toriko, Komatsu. I'm about to die, I'll become fertilizer for the air tree. Toriko had long guessed that Mappy intended to sacrifice himself bravely, he just hadn't expected it would be to become fertilizer for a tree. Mappy gently stroked the air tree. If extremely powerful life is used as nourishment, the air tree will produce extremely high-quality air. Saying this, Kararu started to tear up. Mappy was a bit choked up, saying to him, you have to take care. Then he shouted at the Horse King Heracles, please use my life to exchange for permission to capture air. Please take my life alone. Toriko rushed forward to stop him, yelling shut up. In reality, Toriko's head was also in a mess at this moment. What should he do? On one side was air, on the other was the absolutely powerful king. There was no other option but to fight. Komatsu on the other hand was staring intently at the air tree, lost in thought. Elsewhere, Daruma the hermit, along with Milk and Adashino, had arrived at the atmosphere garden, located on the eastern side of the Hex food world. At the very end of the village. This place had nutrient-rich fertilizer, fish, and localized sunlight, which helped the soil become fertile, producing many types of plants. Thanks to photosynthesis, the air here was abundant, making it one of the few places in the Hex food world suitable for recuperating. Only by coming here could Daruma the hermit's illness be alleviated. Milk saw the Heracles foal and sighed. They have inherited the bloodline of the Horse King. Adashino added, there are also Daruma demon horses, and juvenile Janus unicorns. Daruma looked at the fertile fields and couldn't help but exclaim, there are horses that eat grass and horses that eat meat. But all the war horses living in the Horse King Hill area are air-eating horses. Although they sometimes ate grass, meat, or nibbled on fruit, they mostly preferred to eat air. For them, breathing was the source of life. Every time the Horse King Heracles breathed, he could maintain a breath-holding state for about a month. In other words, with just one breath, even without eating anything, he could continuously exert his full power for a whole month. Conversely, if he did nothing at all, just lay still, one breath would be enough to live comfortably for a whole year. The Horse King, one of the 8 kings, only needs to breathe once to sustain life for a year, and a normal human? One breath is only enough to exert full power for about 8 seconds. Even if they do nothing, just holding their breath, they can only last a few minutes. For the Horse King, air is the source of energy. Milk exclaimed, perhaps this is why the Horse King is called an immortal, ageless warhorse. Daruma the hermit sighed, if you compare the breathing of the Horse King to humans, it's blatant cheating. Because the lung capacity and quality of inhaled and exhaled air between the two are unimaginably different, each time the Horse King Heracles breathes, it can absorb about 5.6 trillion liters of air. Converted into volume, that's equivalent to about 300 million cubic kilometers, almost the entire volume of seawater in the Atlantic Ocean. But Heracles only exhales about 10% of the air it inhales, therefore Area 8 is always in a state of severe oxygen deficiency. The air it exhales, commonly called waste, is full of toxins. Under the influence of convection currents, this toxic air transforms into various types of rain that fall to the ground. This is why Area 8 is called the continent of rain. In fact, Heracles' one breath per year is almost equal to the total amount of air that the gourmet world's animals, plants, and microorganisms need to survive. However, when Heracles reproduces, the situation is completely different. At that time it needs 100 times more fresh air than usual. And only one thing can provide enough air in one breath, the fruit air, which grows on the air tree. Air, the king of all gourmet ingredients, it can be said that Heracles' breath created the strange climate of this land. Normally it's fine, but when it's the Horse King's breeding season, it needs 100,000 air fruits. It is said that, the moment an air fruit ripens and falls to the ground, the amount of air released is enough to dispel all the clouds in Area 8. The ground will then be illuminated by sunlight, and a rainbow with 100 different colors will appear. Only in that instant can this continent, always covered by thick clouds, link with the other continents along with water, air, light. Saying 100 colors of the rainbow is no exaggeration. Compared to air, even a normal rainbow is nothing. Just one air fruit, crystallized over hundreds of years, contains enough air to cover the entire atmosphere of a planet. At that time, the Horse King Heracles usually gives birth to a new generation of offspring. It rushes onto the rainbow, then roars across the sky, flying over the continents. In ancient times, this roaring action was called the Herrick reaction. Today it gives birth to a new life that shakes the continent. Tomorrow it will display its power to the entire world. Because of this, the Horse King Heracles has become a symbol revered by all of humanity. However, Milk noticed another important detail. The Horse King's offspring, though seemingly normal, are actually premature. Adashino explained, if they are born before fully absorbing enough air, then they are indeed premature. And in the tens of thousands of years that have passed, no descendant of the Horse King has ever crossed the rainbow. Daruma the hermit added, when air ripens, the blue nitro always steal it first. They don't have special handling techniques, but they steal that technology from others. But because they can't defeat the blue nitro, they also can't harvest air. If Heracles personally approaches the tree, the air fruit will immediately spoil due to hypersensitivity. After all, without air, the Horse King's bloodline will weaken, and if one of the 8 kings, the Horse King, declines, this entire continent will also collapse. Daruma looked up at the sky where rain was falling lightly and sighed. At this time, what we can do is only to become fertilizer for the air tree, to become food for the Horse King. Although the effect is not great, our abilities are only so much. Milk approached and comforted him. Don't be too pessimistic, sir. If it's Toriko and Komatsu, who knows, they might actually be able to capture air. Milk was about to say more, but the sound-amplifying stone in his hand fell, causing Daruma the hermit to not clearly hear the latter part. At this moment, Komatsu drew the milk knife, his eyes showing a determined look, ready to risk everything. Toriko and Mappi were both stunned by that aura. They had rarely seen Komatsu display such a battle-ready stance. Komatsu calmly said, I hear the call of the ingredient. Mappi had never seen Komatsu unleash his power before, and his jaw dropped in stunned silence. Toriko's expression, on the other hand, was completely the opposite. He felt that Komatsu would definitely accomplish something great this time. Just mentioning the call of the ingredient and Komatsu's entire body blazed with an intense aura. He really could hear the ingredient calling his name. Toriko smiled triumphantly as if this was only natural. But Mappy was confused, asking, "You say ingredient, could it be that air tree?" Komatsu gently swung the knife, then shook his head. "No, the ingredient calling me is something further ahead." Toriko and Mappy looked in the direction Komatsu pointed, which was toward the Horse King's air tree. In front of them again was the Horse King Heracles with its overwhelming power. Sensing that the three intended to pass it, Heracles emitted an intense killing intent. In an instant the three of them were blown away by the shockwave of an invisible bomb. Just one glance was enough to make the ground seem to shake. This was only a warning, not a real attack, but the level of disparity was still too clear. Could they really face such a terrifying opponent? Mappy stopped them. "The tribute hasn't been offered yet. How can you talk about stealing air? The Horse King will definitely not allow it." But Toriko had made up his mind. "If you don't let us pass, then we have no choice but to use force to break through." Mappy was shocked. Toriko didn't give him time to think, immediately urging, "Take Komatsu to where air is. If Karuru runs at full speed, it won't be long before you reach it." Mappy was speechless, intending to say he would sacrifice himself here as a tribute, but Toriko interrupted. "If you die to offer a sacrifice, then we can't eat air together." That statement made Mappy even more confused. Komatsu asked Toriko, "Then what are you going to do?" Toriko said sternly, "It's obvious, isn't it? You two go capture air. I'll stay here and hold back the Horse King." Mappy was shocked. "Are you stupid? How can you possibly win against the Horse King? Doing that is certain death." Toriko remained steadfast. "If it's certain death, then I must die after completing my mission." He looked at Komatsu, his eyes full of trust. "Komatsu, you are the one who will prepare air. Air is calling you. Let the Horse King witness your skill. Rest assured your dish will be protected by me to the end." With those words, Komatsu was immediately reassured. He pulled along the still hesitating Mappy and got into the vehicle. Karuru understood the intentions of Toriko and Komatsu, activated acceleration mode and sped straight toward the air area. But what awaited them wasn't just the Horse King. A Dharma demon horse suddenly charged from the side, raising its hooves to stomp straight down, almost crushing the entire group. Karuru took a deep breath, switched to high-speed mode and stepped hard on the gas, shooting away like an arrow and escaping by a hair's breadth. As they were frantically escaping, Toriko unleashed a powerful aura, shaking the entire land. The Horse King and the surrounding warhorses immediately turned to look at him. Toriko began throwing punches, continuously pounding the ground, creating tremors that resonated deep within the earth. The warhorses had murderous expressions, but Toriko wasn't afraid at all, yelling, "Heracles! Got some time? Wanna fight?" The Horse King tilted its head slightly, its eyes seemingly filled with a hint of suspicion. Toriko continued to shout, "If you insist on having a sacrifice, then I will be the one who sacrifices myself. But only if you can kill me with your own hands." Toriko's eyes were bloodshot, filled with red veins, and the power from his entire body erupted without concealment. The Horse King Heracles' face darkened, and it slowly stood up, its oppressive force like the sky collapsing. Although Toriko's words sounded full of momentum, in reality he was worried to death. Am I really about to fight one of the 8 kings? Can I hold him back for even a little while? 10 minutes or even less? Sweat flowed down, his body constantly and instinctively reacting to the undeniable fear of a powerful opponent. "Mappy, Komatsu, you two have to hurry." The red Oni inside Toriko roared, baring its fangs ready to fight. "Come on, Horse King Heracles." While Toriko was using his life to buy time, Zebra and Brunch were traversing the Stardust Hill area, amidst the frantic meteor rain. Zebra used Soundwave Demolish, shattering all the meteors in the sky, but the continuous falling rocks were starting to irritate him. Brunch stretched, saying, "Step aside, let me show you some skills." He roared, electricity coursing through his body, using the stored electricity to magnetize his entire body, becoming a giant living magnet. The meteors here contained a lot of metal, and they began to be drawn towards Brunch at a dizzying speed. Zebra seized the opportunity, shouting, "Now take them all out at once." Zebra was ready, yelling, "My turn to move aside." Super sound burst. Under the extreme sound waves, all the attracted meteors immediately exploded into rock dust. Meanwhile, at the plains of the bee's nest, Sunny was using his hair to create a protective umbrella, resisting the laser rain that burned like fire. His mind felt like it was about to explode from the heat. In contrast, Nosh was running through the lasers as if nothing were happening, dodging precisely like a ninja. He even turned back and urged Sunny, "Hurry up, old man." Sunny was still trying to cope when the rain suddenly became more intense. The high-intensity laser rain began. Nosh then removed his hat, revealing the shiny round plate on his head, the Minton pufferfish head plate. Even when lasers hit his head directly, he wasn't harmed because he had compressed all his muscle fibers into the plate, creating an invincible shield that reflected all attacks. Sunny was shocked. "Seriously? You had such an awesome move and didn't say so earlier." Nosh smiled wryly, "This move only lasts a few seconds. After that I'll be immobile for a few minutes. I'm counting on you then, Sunny." Sonny froze. I was hoping you would help me. How did it turn into me saving you? With no other choice, Sonny grabbed Nosh by the scruff of his neck and ran for his life, unsure when the move would run out, so running first was the only option. At Poison Rain Prairie, Coco and Dinner were strolling leisurely. Coco used a poisonous mist defense to block the poisonous rain, while Dinner carried temporary detoxifying flowers. Both were safe. This type of flower was extremely rare, almost extinct, but with Dinner's regeneration ability, replanting them wasn't too difficult. However, while they were leisurely strolling, poisonous hail began to fall, a poison so potent that even Coco's poisonous mist was pierced. They fell to the ground and corroded the surface, stronger than sulfuric acid. Coco was stunned. I didn't expect the poisonous hail to have such physical power. Protecting against the poison alone wasn't enough, they had to find a way to resist physical damage as well. They decided not to stop and run straight to Slow Rain Hills. At the same time, Komatsu and Mappy were also rushing towards Slow Rain Hills. Komatsu tightly hugged the car seat, his head almost flying off from the speed. In his mind, he only had one thought: wait for me, Toriko. I will bring back the cooked air right away. The video ends here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your comments to support the channel. New anime series will be uploaded regularly on 21st Century Anime. Thank you.